Today we're going to talk about the EON Global Knowledge Metaverse Program. This is a grant program for post-pandemic resilient recovery in education, enterprise, and communities. It's a very exciting time. We are now in the midst of the knowledge metaverse building. The metaverse itself is a 1.5 trillion industry that now it's supported by the largest companies on earth, as we've seen in the media. But EON's focus is to work within the knowledge arena. We've seen that sometimes there are dystopian versions of this metaverse published that it's somehow it will be proprietary to one company that will somehow retreat people from the real world, and in nightmarish scenarios where people are totally enclosed in those headsets and everything goes haywire around Columbus 2045, as we see in Spielberg's vision. Or it's very divisive and it increases the polarization that we've seen lately around the world. That's not our vision. In fact, our vision is very different. Let's have a look. So, we believe that we can build XR campuses that combines openness, expand our reality, and connect people. And that affects not only education, but enables our cities, our communities, and fosters citizen science projects. We see a world where our lives are richer. We live in a merged reality. We illuminate our world with knowledge. We see a world where we connect people and experience spatial meetings, teleporting yourself to any time, any place. I wouldn't say any time, but any place in real time with multi-users. Now, such a vision requires, of course, some pragmatic and practical approaches. So that's what EON is all about. We believe in a knowledge metaverse that it's open, that enables people to have, let's say, a platform that in principle, today's our platform called EON XR can be accessed by more than 5.3 billion people. Anyone that has a mobile phone can connect to this today. And what's beautiful about this, it's a code-free environment. So you don't need to know how to program. You don't need to know any advanced technology. In fact, my mom, she's 82 years old. She's doing her cooking classes using this type of technology. We also believe that this needs to be agnostic to support any type of device. We support more than 30 things from headsets now to laptops to whatever you have. We also believe it's important that there is a big library. We happen to have, to my knowledge, the world's largest library. It's more access to more than 1.3 million assets. Those are building blocks that enable you to do this. So an inclusive and open metaverse, that's what our dream is all about. So now, another aspect of this metaverse has to expand our reality. What I mean by that, not retreat from reality. So that's what we're doing with our platform called Merged XR. So what this does, practically speaking, is that you can take a phone, any phone, more or less, that's reasonably modern, and you can hold it against an object, an environment, and you can create a digital scan. Once you have this scan, you can inject this scan in reality and create the digital twin, and then inject knowledge using augmented reality and using artificial intelligence. So your physical world bursts with knowledge. This is obviously very useful for many applications. Now, once you have that, beyond the fact that you can have just annotation, you can also have something we call knowledge portals. We'll kind of come back to that. Those are floating in space, provide information such as you see here, PDF, can provide videos, and many other things. Also enables you with your own voice to just create annotation on the fly, and also provides you the ability to assess people. We'll come back to that too. So that's the ability to merge reality with the digital world. Last but not least, we are also about connecting people. So how do we accomplish that? By teleporting ourselves to this digital scan or 3D environment with what we call spatial meetings. So you can project yourself to another location, set up a meeting like you do with a Zoom, but now suddenly you are there in that environment. That environment can be a physical environment or can be a digital environment. So I'm here in my living room, but I could also be in a complete virtual environment like we see here. We can talk, we can interact, we can do all those things in the spatial meetings. So that's what we mean at EON when we talk about the knowledge metaverse. Open, expand, and connect. Now, what's our mission? Our mission is simple. We need to help people to create those XR experiences and ultimately to better learn, train, perform, and collaborate. So now let's walk a little bit and be practical. I mentioned that first, of course, you need some 3D assets. Now, how do you do that? You can tap into library, the library that exists already with access to 1.3 million assets. That's something that you can get at any time within EON. Or, as I already indicated, you can scan your environment. So hold your phone and get the data. And that's also very easy to do. But there is also a third way, and this way is called import. So you can actually import your own 3D assets. We support more than 55 different type of CAD data, animation data, etc. Now you have your 3D asset. What do you do now? It's very simple. Now you take pictures. You take pictures of your world, digital or physical, and we are using artificial intelligence to identify, as you saw there, what it is. And then we, with artificial intelligence, give you selections for knowledge portals, which can be text, voice, images, PDF, browser, 3D assets, and all are in a contextual environment. So you are basically in that environment. Now, we don't stop there. We don't only allow you to explore, do what we call exploration learning, have knowledge portals, but we also generate automatically the ability to assess you. So my assessment doesn't work. Yeah, so we also have the ability to assess you, what we call assessment portals. So here we generate quizzes. We generate the ability for you to locate, for example, an object or identify what's there. So this is a beautiful way to learn. First you explore, and then you assess your knowledge. For example, in this case, with a vehicle. So now you learned. The next exciting part of this is walk and talk. Training. So we did it simple. What a better way to learn than going through an avatar that you recorded yourself in seconds that allows you to record how you guide someone, how do we explain something, so how we dissect, point, grab, and interact just by pushing one button and doing what you're expert on easily. So that's what we call walk and talk. Now that leads to what we call an avatar instruction. So you record yourself and then an avatar appears and does what you've done. In this case, disassemble an engine. Show me, guide me, let me do it myself in a very tangible and practical visual way, which allows us to train faster and eventually also certify ourselves. That's what we come to performance. So let's talk about certify. So certify is about, now that I have my avatar, I can start conducting standard operation procedures. For example, in this case, hospitality training for technical vocational training, or something more advanced, perhaps. This is an assessment, a simulator-based assessment, where you did a recording, for example, how to install this computer, and then you have a student to do the same and automatically get a validation, an assessment. In this case, the final score was 80 of 100. We can see that a completion was around 72%. So you get the score, the completion rate, and the number of incorrect steps, the missteps, the sequence, and the time. Okay, so now once we have learned, trained, and performed, we want to start collaborating. And as you may recall, here is spatial meeting. You selected your avatar, you entered that meeting, you now start to guide people or collaborate, discuss, engage in experiments. This is what we call experiential learning. This is something you cannot do with Zoom. So in a nutshell, let's recap the highlights. We have the knowledge portals, bursting knowledge that you create with artificial intelligence. You have the assessment portals that allows you to assess you. You have the walk and talk with avatar instructions. And you also have the simulator assessment. Finally, of course, you have the ability to collaborate in a spatial meeting. So that's our mission. Learn, train, perform, collaborate. Now, you may wonder where this can be applicable. Of course, our focus is academia. We focus on K-12. We focus also on TVET or CTE. And we also work in higher education. So all these areas are covered. Let me share with you some concrete examples. So the first one is related to K-12. So this is an example of a project we've done in France together with, it's called Lexis. It's a project that was created in collaboration with the French Educational Department and designed for a K-12 audience. It covers multiple fields. You can see World War I, you can see energy, you can see traffic safety, and many other things that you can experience in this environment. It's an intimate way for the teacher to collaborate and converse with the student. The students can do homework in an immersive and very experiential way. They can actually interact, they can learn by doing versus just, looking at a movie. So this is a very exciting type of project. Now, and for this project, you can have, for example, a lab, as you can see here. So you can do that in a mobile environment, but you can also switch the lab in augmented reality. So you have your lab walk around using just a mobile device. So that's a more practical example of what you can do in this. Now, the type of application here are, I would say, almost endless for K-12. So let me highlight just a few. So you can do, for example, shark adventure, VR jungle, aquarium. We have an aquarium that I think has been visited by 25 million people. There was an early application with it. But also practical things like safety, public transit, flood safety, things related to math, STEM, science, technology, math. So you can see here that there are endless opportunities and applications that are being created by users, but also can be created by you in very, very easy way. Okay, so going back to the presentation. Yes, so now that we've returned, let's take another example from Asia. This is an example from Vietnam. I'm right now in Asia. When I'm recording this, I'm actually in Cambodia, where we are working with the government for a national rollout. And here we started with UNICEF in a collaboration for students. And these are young students, pioneers, and they have actually received, we also were able to provide the tablets, but most students have access to phones and tablets just using their parents' devices. So this project is extremely excited. We've grown fast. You can see here the student using just a phone. And they're using virtual reality, but they're also using augmented reality. So, and the students grabbed it immediately and were able to not only consume lessons, but more important, be able to create their own. So let's have a look. So here's an example, just a few examples of what they've been able to do, students, where they learn about various plants. In this case, they learn about insects. They learn about the planetary system. And you can see here they're using their phones, and they're using, and this is actually the old version of EON. It's already old, but they're using this in a very concrete way to learn, train, perform, and collaborate. And to be even more practical, here's an example of what they've done. Security-based basic life skills in young children, biology, chemistry, physics, and many, many, many things more. Health, prevention of injury, um, understanding of atomic structures, characteristic of gases. The list goes on and on and on. So now that we have talked about that, there's much more you can do. This is an example from Italy. They are using K-12 to learn about COVID and to help prevent students. Or this is from Spain. Teachers are taking K-12 students to historical buildings, for example. Now let's move on to technical vocational training, or CTE. That is a very exciting area. I mean, if you look at, I showed this example very briefly before, if you look at virtual reality and in augmented reality, to a large extent, it's very helpful for things like nursing, hands-on, plumbing, electricity, everything that has to have hands-on when you can train on a procedure is very helpful. But another aspect of this that's very helpful is the ability to have machinery. Now, CNC machine cost a lot. TVET, all this, whether it's a robot, in this case we see how students are, this is in Spain, are training to program a robot. You don't have to buy them, and with our library that is more than 1.3 million assets today, going to more than 10 million assets, that's possible. But you can also do things like, for example, very practical standard operation procedure. And this specific one is done for an engine, and you can say that the trainer recorded a procedure, and basically what he's doing is using the phone to move left and right, the right sequence, while talking, walking and talking, and pointing to things, taking pictures, creating their knowledge portals. All those things are possible to do. And then once they have that, then they can they have done their 3D recording, they can use that 3D recording for the student to also do one and compare, and by comparing, getting the 3D assessment. So that's a very concrete way how you can use this for more advanced solutions. And the list goes on. I was mentioning earlier that I can bring people to my room. So this is actually inviting various colleagues to explore the heart in my own work space. And they are there floating in space and walking around, pointing, conversing. And it's a very practical way to train nurses. What about going to a factory environment? So this is, you can train in this environment emergency situations. So now you see we're on a parking lot. The reason for that is that it's not enough space to do it in your living room. You have to walk maybe 100 meters. So you have to be careful where you are, obviously in a football field and so on. But in this case, you invite your avatars, and the expert can take you to security processes or a new manufacturing procedure. So those are examples. Now, all these things work from your phone. So here we can see the user is just using his phone, and he's pointing to various things, and in the phone he sees his colleagues that are somewhere else. And as you move the phone up and down, the phone then registers the different things that you see there. And if we could hear the volume, which I can, it's turned off now, you can hear that he's talking with them, pointing them, instructing them, and everybody in this case, they're doing a procedure for appendix removal. And you can see how efficient it is to be several people interact. You see there they are moving things around, etc. So just using your phone. Now, another thing that's interesting is that you need to personalize. There is a capability to personalize your avatar. So this, we are working on this is a technology from a third party that allows you to just use the phone, capture that, and I put him in my own workroom. You can see it's an avatar. So, and you can of course use this for many things. Students like to personalize their environments, but you can also use it for things like, for example, fashion, or you can also use it for things like art, dance, and it is much more engaging when you use your own avatar. So, I could go on for hours. I will not do that. I'm very excited about technical vocational training because I think in many areas, in New York, you can see that the plumber can earn more by becoming a good plumber than being a lawyer. So today there is too little of these practical skills for future skills. So In here we have applications for oil and gas, for power grids, for plumbing, for cranes, for mining safety, airport application, chainsaw operations, virtual laboratories, machine training, fall prevention, and the list goes on and on. So I'll stop there because time doesn't allow us to do all this. Okay, so let's move on. Last but not least, higher education. So I was in London recently, and during my trip in London, one thing I did, we did an inauguration at the East London University. So I invited a friend from Sweden, and he was actually doing a lecture for the people here that were attending. This was during the prep for the presentation, so they were still chatting. So Vinsang from Sweden was there. The lab is obviously virtual, and we are able to interact in this environment, talk at an exhibit, with a full, you can see there's a high level of engagement there from the various people. And he also brought Linda with him. So there's a lady, Linda Ober and Vinsang, both from our Swedish office, interacting at the presentation for higher education. Now, obviously, this can be used for doctor training. This is an example from CHOC, Children's Hospital of Orange County, that is used for alleviating stress for young pediatric patients that are to undergo, but also train nurses how to best perform this very complicated or procedure. But also here you can see this little path that helps to guide and also, yeah, lower the stress, so to speak, with students, including having them guided by whales and many exciting things here. But bottom line, training of nurses and doctors in as well as patient education. So that's an example. Going back to the previous example that we saw from my phone, so this is the view when you just look at the phone in full range, and you can see here that they are interacting with devices, they are conducting procedures, so it's very, very engaging. Another thing that I would like to share is interior decoration. So here I'm in Laguna Beach. I'm actually on my terrace, and my terrace is empty. There's nothing there. But as you can see here, it looks like I am in some type of hospitality environment. Okay, so wow. I've been working a lot in the computer, as you can see, 18 hours, that's a lot. So you can look at this, and you have the ability to do interior design, change colors, move things around, plan. So for architecture solutions, when you want to experience the life-size one-to-one, this is a wonderful way. But also, in addition to that, you can see the amazing visual quality that currently, you see that camera that is there. That's this is the value of the new solution. So I am in my garden now and experiencing this environment in transparent mode and full mode for architecture. How about higher education for logistics and manufacturing procedures? So this is an example. This is, so you can see there's a real person there, and there are virtual guests invited, and the virtual guests can not only point, but they can also move things around, as you can see here. So the ability to be both people that are physical, virtual in that environment, and plan, train, etc. is very valuable. I'm a big fan of archaeology. So here's an example of Mesa Verde. This is a place in Arizona that I visited, and you can conduct actually archaeological trips to those places using spatial meetings. So everything to history, either things that currently exist or even reconstructions and of things. So that's another example. Of course, I just to share a little bit more advanced applications also. Let's have a look at that. In this case, I think my internet is low here in Cambodia. That's where we have the little delay. Okay, so here is higher education. So ophthalmology application, art history, aneurysm studies, virtual anatomy decisions, sepsis diagnosis, Van Gogh's experiences for art, heart simulation, submarine and psychology when you're underwater, King Tut's chambers, and many, many more. These are just some examples. Okay, so that was EON Academic Focus. Let's move on. So now we're going to talk about product demos and use cases. Obviously today I'm not going to do a full product demo, but there is lots of assets here you can visit on our YouTube channel where our customer success experts are showing this exciting way of how to actually create a user experience. And just to highlight a little bit, this is from John Green, and John is showing here how you can use this on your mobile device and what you can program in that device. This is EON XR, how you can add various videos, or you can show that on your table. This is the VR glasses that you can convert your phone into glasses. These are examples in VR when you actually create two images. Activities that you complete, you get a score for that. So that's kind of, XR. The ability, this is merged XR, where you actually do a scan of your car, you then overlay it, you superimpose that, and now you're able to put a lot of information and guidance. You see that hand from above there. You also can use the artificial intelligence. He's taking a picture. Let's look at that. I took it back a little bit. Yeah, so visually matches. So he took a picture, now recognizes what it is, and with that he can build more information, videos, text. For example, this floating video shows that procedure for the car, which is very exciting. But it's not only one video. You can have video, text, PDFs, what we call knowledge portals, as I showed earlier. And now here there is walk and talk, so he's guiding you through a procedure, and he's showing you different things. And then finally, he's also demonstrating a spatial meeting. So let's go to that. He's picking up a model. He is selecting either standard meeting. We have something called XR meetings without avatar, or spatial meetings. Now we're going for spatial meetings. He's selecting a building, in this case a scanned environment. He's selecting the avatar. He's inviting other people to join. He's putting in his room, and voila. Now he's in a French room back in time, and he can walk around physically. He can encounter other people. You can see here guests. He can look at things, or he's on his tablet doing the same thing that we've seen before, but also with people and interaction, and in a very, very collaborative and engaging way. So that's a quick demo. If you are interested in a deep dive, we can obviously provide that. There's also a lot of use cases. So these use cases have been developed by our Chief Learning Officer, Rina, and she's been working on, her husband is a cockpit expert. So he did actually standard operation procedures for this. Don't have the sound, but you'll actually hear him as a cockpit in 3D explaining how things work in this cockpit. Here he is. He actually recorded that and talks with her about it. Here's agriculture equipment that you can see is aligned for knowledge and using artificial intelligence. Here is an agriculture expert explaining how to handle this type of equipment, and he's even put a farm in her own living room. That's pretty crazy. You can see the farm. Here's in the laboratory that I've showed you earlier with the centrifuge, the medical equipment. Now she's doing music here, I believe, studio design, studio monitors on the music side, teaching about that. Anyway, this can go on, and time doesn't allow us to do everything, but it's a short description of product demos and use cases. If you're interested, check our YouTube. There is much more to enjoy. So now, let's talk a little bit about our features, right? So, obviously we talked a lot about learn, train, perform, and collaborate, but there's much more to EON. I haven't showed you much about the desktop environment. So we work on PC and Macs, and it's a very smooth, you can create your lessons there. Most people now doing the lessons on the mobile because obviously the world is mobile, but you can do even more on the desktop. One of the things that I find very exciting is the admin pages. So you can see here, you'll have your own institution with your own users, your own groups, your own roles, your own marketplace, reports, and settings. So you get analytics. So you don't have to share the content. You determine who's creating, who's sharing, and to whom. And this is a very intuitive way to have the admin pages. Also, we have the ability to do LMS integration. We come back to that. One thing I haven't talked about, we have a marketplace. So we are expanding the marketplace. Initially, the marketplace was designed for assets, so you can buy and sell assets that you created or someone else has created, and you retain the revenues. But now we are also expanding this to full XR experiences. So this is a way for you to monetize some of your creation, but also to get access to what other people have done that they want to share. And oftentimes it can be free, but sometimes they can also charge for it. Now there is a big wall coming, which are the devices, virtual reality headsets, augmented reality, and we are very excited about that. We support various devices like HTC Vive, Magic Leap, HoloLens. We also have in Oculus, we are now supporting through App Lab, so you can download EON XR straight to your Quest through Oculus App Lab if you want to do that. We already talked about the unparalleled visual quality. We did a huge step during 2021 in terms of visual quality. And I think many times we're on a level that if you record an AR session, you'll be having trouble to know what's real or not. And I've done that test many times, and people fail to guess the right which is what. Now, another thing you can do, you can create an XR playlist. The old name for XR was lessons. We moved away from lessons because it kind of implied that something that's difficult to do, but it's not. It's XR experience, something you learn, can do anytime. So those are playlists that you can do. As I also mentioned, we do support Oculus for Quest, Learn, Train, Perform through the wireless headset and other devices, almost 30 devices. I mentioned briefly that you can import 3D assets, and you can do that. Before it was only possible to do it on a desktop. Now you can do it on the fly. So things like Sketchfab, for example, that has also thousands, if not millions of models. We are expanding to that. You can import them from other 3D warehouses, which gets you to a larger asset base. And of course, Mac, something that we came up with last year, I think, but it's been very successful. Harness the power of EON XR in this Mac. And by the way, I converted myself to Mac. I love it now after more than 36 years using PC. Okay, switching gears. Now we are talking about national knowledge metaverse rollouts that are accelerating globally. And we have helped governments now and work with partners in now more than 100 countries to do so. And we have various programs. We have everything from individual programs that goes to academic institution, all the way to knowledge metaverse program that go to full nations, like we see here, for example. So why do we do this? We'll come back to that, and what is it? So it's a grant. Those grants are providing everything you need in order to roll out XR in your institution, organization, or region. We cover quite a lot if you get those grants, up to 95%. And this helps quite a lot in education, but also helps governments to build IP and digital assets, upskilling for jobs, enterprise, helping, especially during COVID, with safety, security, and health, strengthens in many times community social cohesion, and global creates this global knowledge metaverse with now we have more than 460 locations on the map that create solutions. So this figure 73 is getting old now. I don't know exactly the last number, but I would guess we are above 100. We started with the new grant program sometimes in the beginning of COVID, even actually, I would say 2 months before COVID. And what we've seen is that COVID has created an explosion. We had 890% increase in users. It's pretty remarkable. And these users are coming from all corners of the world. It's not just United States. It's everywhere from Egypt. You can see the dots on the map. From Africa, Central Africa, Michigan, West Indies, Jamaica, Kuwait, Mississippi. So you can see this, it's pretty exciting. This is President Donald Trump. This is New Mexico, Slovenia, Africa, Morocco and Nigeria, Orange County, California, and so on and so on. So just to give you a flavor for this, let's look at the world map. This is a map that's today updated manually, but soon will be updated automatic. And if we drill in anywhere in the world, you can see location where the metaverse is created. And I'm a little bit like a kid in the candy store to see the level of interest that we have. And everywhere you can actually click on application, you can see that there's 671 locations right now in California where organizations are doing this. So very exciting development. So let's talk a little bit more concrete. Obviously I would love to visit all these locations I can, especially not during COVID, but together with my colleagues, I've been to probably 45 countries in the last 3-4 months, which in itself is quite challenges, I must say, because of all the protocols. So what we've seen is that governments and academic institutions around the globe are engaged in the knowledge metaverse. So we are meeting either with prestigious universities, or local organizations, intergovernmental organizations, and also, of course, national governments. I'll give you an example. Morocco. So we started Morocco in last February, and there we actually inaugurated the first center. It was a partnership between EON, that was a large sponsor of this, Moroccan government, USAID, this is actually from USAID's website, and some other agencies that were engaged. Financially, this is a $28 million project, as you can see there. EON contributed a little bit more than 20. United States provided $3 million in cash. We had also the Agency for Digital Development that contributed together with Mohammed VI University another $3.6 million to make this happen. We started with 6,000 students, but now during a period of 12 months or so, this program has mushroomed and grown to more than 60,000 students. And we expect, believe it or not, during 2022 to go to more than 600,000 students. So this is something that we're doing not only in Morocco, obviously. We started in US, August 2020, we did a partnership with LACC, for example, one of the 115 community colleges. And then that continued with Butte and many other. And our target during 22 is to reach all 150 colleges. This is the largest college system in the world. Singapore has been a leader in this for many years. We've been working there since 2010, and we see now that they also embraced. During my last visit, I met with representatives for the Ministry of Education, also other organizations like Infocom Development Authority, etc. I am in Cambodia now, so in Cambodia we met this week with the Minister of Education, other ministers, and we are now working on a national rollout. This is a full national rollout. Likewise, 2 weeks ago, I was in Thailand, met with the Minister of Education there. It's the Deputy Minister, I should say. And there we're inaugurating a big center there that is the foundation for the national rollout. Likewise in Malaysia, we opened a center there in Sarawak, and now we're working with the minister to do this, expand it throughout the island of Borneo. In Brazil, we've been present since 2010, so that's a long history where we started working with Senai, and now we are working towards expanding that relation. Obviously, Europe, I'm originally from Sweden, is working in this environment. We engage with a number of universities there in Germany. We have a big center together with Switzerland. So this is in Lucerne, that grew from, I think, 2 staff to, I think they have 25, 30 staff now for a national rollout. England, we inaugurating a center in September 30th with University of East London. Glasgow, we inaugurate the center there October 1st with the Vice Chancellor. Portugal, we are working there with a grant to create a center. They received a grant there for this purpose, I think it's almost $40 million, of which they want to use a significant portion to roll out XR. Um, and China, we have a long-standing relation since 2017 with China Merchant Group and the government there, and this grew. In 2019, we set up, announced a center in Henan province, and now we we actually have an MOU with the Beijing Economic and Technology Development Zone, or engagement, I should say. If we look at India, India is a big country. We had a year ago, more than a year ago, signed a contract with Assam province to do a rollout throughout the whole region, and that I'm pleased to say that that program is now continuing expanding. Japan, we have a presence there, and the list goes on. I will not take all of them, but I'll give you just a few pointers here. Bulgaria, we opened a center, smaller center, April 6th with the deputy minister, and now we had a meeting when I was there with the Minister of Finance. Likewise in Slovenia, smaller center in March 2021, and now I met with the Minister of Digital Transformation and Ministry of Education. Likewise in Kosovo. And I would say what's common denominator, I'm not going to go through all of them, but what's common denominator here is that all governments and organizations want to implement this type of digital transformation. And this has become more apparent during the COVID. And they have the funds, most of them. The problem they have is even places like now Ethiopia, where we signed a contract for 2nd of September, that they don't know exactly how to implement or transfer this vision or this strategy into tangible projects that make impact. And that's where we come in, because we have the experience and we have the type of technology that enables that. And in this context, we also work together with intergovernmental organizations to help the process, such as Inter-American Development Bank. We've been working with USAID and many others. So why are we doing this? Why is EON launching this? Fundamentally, we believe that knowledge is a human right, and we want to make knowledge available, accessible, and affordable for everybody on the planet. So we started 15 years ago with activities, for example, in Africa. We have an engagement through EON Learn for Life. What we are doing is now focusing not only on Africa, but focusing on worldwide post-pandemic recovery assistance, so helping organizations to do this. So when we started with the Learn for Life, which is a non-profit activity, it was a range of projects that were very basic, but now as we have grown, this has expanded. Okay. So that's one. The other thing, a realization that, to build a knowledge metaverse, although we have 42 million people download our viewer in many countries, nothing that one organization can do. It's not enough. We have to have millions of people that build a knowledge metaverse, eventually billions, right? And that we want to work together with academic institutions and other organizations to do so. We also see that there's a big impact on job creation, upskilling, and also great opportunity for research and XR with other organizations around the globe that are leading in various aspects. So, okay, but what are the key partner benefits? There are many, but I will try to highlight just 4 of them. So across the world, whether it's in America or it's in Canada or even Honduras, as you can see here, some of the locations that we launched, what is becoming apparent is that this technology transforms education. So, easily put, let me be concrete. There is a study from PwC, for example, that has looked how virtual reality is redefining training and education. And they concluded that with this technology, students can learn or train 4 times faster. They are much more confident, 275%. They are more emotionally connected, and they are 4 times more focused than their e-learning peers. So it's not only EON that's seen these advantages, we've seen it across the world, and others have done so too. The other thing is, which became more apparent during the COVID is that if you compare organizations that are use traditional technology like Zoom and e-learning versus organizations that use XR, for example with EON, we see a big difference. Students that are using experiential learning during COVID have increased enrollment, increased retention, satisfaction, and engagement. And the ones that have not have actually plummeted their student enrollment, retention, and satisfaction. So it's evident that this is a technology that's a must-have solution, not something just for the future. A third reason is that most academic institutions, organizations, and governments want to build their own intellectual property, their own digital assets that are protected, owned, and by them 100%. And we are helping them to do so. We are now implementing blockchain technology, NFT, non-fungible tokens, to help preserve their intellectual property and copyrights. Last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, we have a marketplace. 42 million people have downloaded our viewer over time. And that's an opportunity for students and also teachers and organizations at large to monetize their creations. And this is a global phenomena happening right now in places like Indonesia, like we see here, West Indies, or anywhere else. Now, EON has been working over the years with many other academic institutions, not as partners necessarily, but also as customers. So what we've seen there is a big transition from initially having Carnegie Mellon, Cornell University, now to going to colleges, community colleges, and now all the way to K-12. We also see a big reduction in training costs for corporations, so service technician training, operator training. We've seen reductions between 63 all the way to 92% in cost reductions. And obviously, as we look at this, we also have historically and also in the future tend to work with academic institutions and industries. So here are some of our industrial customers over the years, and we see that market growing for them. In the industry sector, we see also an increase in productivity. 34%, for example, Boeing, there's a study for their productivity increase using XR technology. Okay, so now let's go to the grants. So we have grants. They range from $5 million all the way to $150 million, depending on the size. Now, what exactly are we providing? So this is not a cash grant, just to be clear. What it is an in-kind solution that provides, depending on the size, turnkey deliverables for having everything you need to complete your knowledge metaverse construction and to do the XR rollout. So let's be specific. So first of all, you get the infrastructure. We cover perpetually 100% of the cloud infrastructure hosted by the world's largest company in this field, Amazon Web Services, our partner that with a presence in 190 countries. It's the most secure, the most extensive, and the most reliable cloud platform. And we provide to our users unlimited bandwidth, so they can put unlimited data, I should say, and unlimited time, so it's not limited in time for them to store this. And this is something, we also provide the EON platform infrastructure that currently supports, as I said, all type of devices. If you look at combine the desktops, laptops, HMDs, so phones, it's more than 3.3 billion people that can access our platform. We also provide 30 plus advanced devices, the types like Microsoft HoloLens, Facebook, Meta, I should say, Oculus, Apple, ARKit, Magic Leap, Vuzix, etc. So that's the infrastructure we need. Then we provide a platform. We talked about that earlier. So it's EON XR, the no-code creation tool. It's Merge XR, the digital twin creation. It's the spatial meetings that allows you to teleport yourself to real time, real place. All licenses are perpetually for usage of created XR experiences. And we also provide options to cover up to, depending on a package, a lot of the creation licenses also in the future. Hardware, we do provide hardware. Now keep in mind, most people today are using what they have in the pocket. The 5.3 billion people, they have mobile phones. So you already have a lot of the hardware required. Vast majority of the students are using that. and of course existing laptops, desktops, etc. But we do provide, for example, 300 Humidos, which is a little device that you attach to your phone to see virtual reality. We provide 3D scanner, projector, 360 camera, Apple device, Oculus, Magic Leap, and all this stays perpetually with you as the partner. Now, last but not least, we provide the know-how and resources. So we cover, in addition, 100% of the cost, and this is actually not even counted in the grant, required for the implementation, including self-directed learning program, LMS integration, it's all covered, needs assessment, certification of faculty, certification of students, and many more. So, how do we implement this? How does it work? So the first thing is to do introduction, what we're doing now, and understand more about this program and answer some of your basic questions to gauge your interest to apply. Now, if you decide to apply for the grant, then there's a submission online, and I'll walk you through the three major grant application in a second. There's a committee consisting of EON, Learn for Line representatives, the nonprofit arm, and the committee determines if this applicant is approved, and if so, within 10 days or so, you get a certificate of approval, and there you get the amount of the grant that has been approved based on the merits of your application. After that, once you have the certificate, which is valid for everywhere between low end 30 up to 60 days, depending on the size, you can then do a proper due diligence. We do a proper due diligence, so you do the same. And during that period, we do a deep dive, understand the product, understand the legal, technical, and other implications, sustainability implication. With that comes also an offer letter. That's the binding document that enables you to, spells out all the details of the grant, all the terms and conditions. And then once you review that and decide to accept the offer letter by signing the offer letter, and we countersign it to the committee, then we are together. Then the grant is released, we start to ship the equipment, the software, everything to roll it out, and implement. So that's the process. Now, I will not go into today in details around the implementation. That's in itself a whole session. We also have something called Metaverse Academy. Just a quick description of that. It's to build a knowledge metaverse. We have something called academic ROI, which means that we work together. We have people employed for EON that are grant specialists, and all they do is to look for additional grants to expand the program. Now, let me share a concrete study. This is with a European university called University of Business and Technology. We started with them in the midst of the pandemic. We looked at what to implement, so we had 20 different programs for students. Here, things like we looked at, I think, 16 bachelor courses and 8 master courses, everything from mechatronics, architecture, construction, etc., etc. So nursing. So quite a vast amount of different areas that were looked at. Now, what's happened is that we started, this was a piloting phase here, very, very short one. In April, we started for real. That was when the school actually closed. And then we grew from 1,000 to 16,000 students in 2 months. And during that period, they did more than 40,000 XR experiences. And the best of them, it's only the best ones we can see here. It's about 5,000, a little bit more actually. Those are maybe 10% of them, which then were incorporated as a part of the curriculum. So, with that, let's go to the grants. So you have 3 types of grants at the moment. Future Skill Grant, that goes up to $15 million. Research Grant Program, that goes up to $15 million also. Knowledge Metaverse, which is more aiming at governments and nation, that goes up to 150. The comment for them is that EON provides most of the funding for this, so if not all the funding. In fact, we do provide, between us and the nonprofit and help organization, most of them. The only thing you have to cover is a grant guarantee fee, and I'll come back to that. But so let's look through this quickly. So the first one, the Future Skills Grant, is mainly focused on, as the name implies, training future skills. So for K-12 all the way up to actually college, community college, technical vocational training, etc. The purpose is post-pandemic recovery and deployment at scale. This is not a grant for 100 or 200 students. This is a campus-wide rollout. Workforce development, localized content creation. We cover the cost for up to 5,000 students, 750, and all the relevant equipment as I described before. The cost for the academic institution is a one-time grant guarantee fee of 1.6%, 1.67. So that depends on the size of the grant, from 5 to 15 million. So why the grant guarantee fee? It's a way for us, because this grant doesn't have a clawback. So once we deliver, we can't take anything back. There's no penalties. We have to make sure that you as an organization have skin in the game and are committed. And there's no guarantee actually, but at least knowing that you spend, even if it's a small amount of funding, that helps. That's a requirement actually from the donors and also from the EON Learn for Life, that we actually know that you are committed. So that's the amount there. Now, the way you fill in those grants, you can see it here. There's a list, and you can apply. You can put your organization name. It's a fairly easy grant. It doesn't take a lot of time to fill in. A lot of questions are multiple choices. So, and then once you've done it, you just submit. The research grant is very similar, but aiming more of, let's say, higher education. It's the same amount of students, it's the same amount with respect to grant amounts. This one has also a research component. So in this grant, we're looking at collaborating for additional grants beyond this in research areas that you are interested in, such as digital twin technology, safety and security warning systems, AI-based solutions, building the knowledge metaverse, etc. So, or other topics that you are interested in. And last but not least, here is the one that I'm focusing most on at the moment, which is government-related activities. So this is regional rollouts all the way to national rollouts. The purpose with this grant is to make sure that we do help governments to do a resilient post-pandemic recovery within academy. Eligibility, I'm not going to go through the details. All I can saying that the lowest level is, like you saw in Morocco, is around 27, 28 million. We aim now to go to, with most of them, to 142 to 150 million dollars. And you have an application in the same way.